City of Passaic, we welcome you to the February 28th, 2023 City Council meeting. In accordance with Chapter 231 Public Laws of 1975, adequate notice of this meeting was provided by resolution to the Herald News and published on February 9th, 2023, and placed on the City Hall Bulletin Board by the Office of the City Clerk. Pursuant to the Open Public Meeting Act, be advised that the City Council of the City of Passaic has rescheduled their February 21st, 2023 council meeting to Tuesday, February 28th, 2023 at 7 p.m. to be held in the council chambers, first floor, 330 Passaic Street, Passaic, New Jersey, in person and virtual through hybrid communication equipment in conformance with the directives of the state of New Jersey. Please be further advised, due to COVID-19, this meeting will be in person and virtually streamed. Public notice and instructions for this meeting were published in the Herald News and posted on the City of Passaic website, www.cityofpassaic.com, council agenda. Instructions are also available on the last page of this agenda. Please be guided accordingly.
Roll call, please.
Councilman Love,
Present.
Councilman Schwartz,
Present.
Councilman Garcia,
Present.
and Council President Scheer.
President, shall we all please rise for the invocation? Mayor, may we impose one?
Bow our heads.
Blessed are you, O Lord, King of the universe, creator of heaven and earth. We thank you for this opportunity where we may come together to do the business of the city of Passaic. We ask that you would guide all of the minds and hearts, those that you have placed in positions to make decisions that would be in the best interest of all of the residents in our community, all those who work, visit, or recreate here, and that would honor you. In your holy and glorious name, we pray. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Ladies and gentlemen, if you have cell phones, if we could ask you please to put them on vibrate or turn them off. We also would like to announce, if you would like to get a copy of tonight's meeting's agenda and you don't have one, you can get that on the city's Facebook page, I believe it is, yes? And there you can find all the resolutions, ordinances, communications, etc., including all the background information for each one of them. They are available to you, and you will receive the same material that the City Council receives from the administration. At this time, I know that there we have your update, and we also have a presentation, which I believe you're making on behalf of Ms. Margarita Colon.
Yes.
May we impose on you, Mr. Mayor?
Thank you. Thank you, Council President, members of our City Council, and all those in attendance. I will go through the updates of the city, and then we will have this very special presentation where we honor the dedication, commitment, and service of a wonderful individual in our community. As we mentioned, some of the progress and successful events, and as always, they are a result of individuals who give so much to our city. So we will begin with during this month, African American Heritage Month. We have not only had the flag raising, but under the leadership of our great councilman, Dr. Terrence Love, there was a hugely successful event, an African American parade celebration committee activity where individuals were honored from within our community. Amongst the honorees was our chief of police, Louis Guzman. If we can give him a round of applause. Not because he was honored, it's just in case any of you parked a little bit suspiciously outside, we can get that covered, make sure no one has any tickets. But there were a number of individuals, Councilman Dr. Terrence Love, under his leadership, honored individual coaches, educators, community leaders, so many, along with his partner, Mrs. Hill, as well as of the committee and all of the committee members. We also had the NAACP gala that was successfully held and brought individuals from all over our county and state to celebrate our remarkable African-American community, as well as celebrate Black history. Among the activities within the city, Council President, there was the Housing Authority at Aspen Place. The kids put together an amazing display of art, of history. They reminded us of all of the amazing inventions. They themselves drew and put together displays. They did such an amazing job. They recreated stations they built with their own hand, like the Cotton Club, famous club, different historical sites. And we went around, many of us went to visit and took pictures at the different site. They appreciated the support. That was wonderful and amazing, as well as the high school put on an amazing presentation with art, with music, and again, history and education. We thank them so very much, and we continue to honor as we do every single year. And again, I can't stress enough, thank you, Councilman Love, for your leadership, not just here, but throughout the year, as we always celebrate all of our communities. We also recently celebrated the Dominican independence with a large population here in the city of Passaic, one of the largest of any state. And we were able to raise the flag, and we honored continuing in that tradition of recognizing public safety officials. We honored Officer Edline Guzman, one of our female officers who is of Dominican descent, along with we also honored Weatherly Frias, a familiar name here, uh, from the city of Passaic. I would go through the many licenses, certifications, and education, but we're trying to end the meeting before midnight, so I can't go through all the qualifications, but it was an amazing experience. And we also had the pleasure, privilege, and honor of having with us the very first ever Hispanic Miss New Jersey of Dominican descent, Miss Daya Burton. Daya Burton came, she wore her crown, she stood on the dais. Councilwoman Mello had presented her with an award. Our council president reminded me and let me know that a crown made her queen, and queen is higher than mayor. So that day she was in charge. She was the authority in charge of the city. But no, it was a wonderful event. Many present really enjoyed. I want to take this opportunity to thank Jumbo Restaurant on Myrtle Avenue, and El Primito Restaurant on Monroe Street for providing delicious and amazing traditional, authentic Caribbean food. Jumbo in Passaic and Primitos, some of the best restaurants in the world. I was not paid to say that. However, I'm looking for a free meal. And I figure a few plugs, if they see it online, I might get an extra Moro con Guandules. I also wanted to share that coming up this week, we will have the grand opening of 7-Eleven. 7-Eleven will be opening up. They boast of having over 3,000 products. And council president, they also have on their website that they invented the convenience store model in the world. They were the very first to come forward as a convenience store. I didn't know that either. I will admit to you, Council, I saw your expression. I tried to verify. I looked it up. That's what it stated. I also wanted to share that we had celebrated, and I briefly spoke about this at the last meeting, receiving an additional $4 million for the parking deck that will be built across the street from City Hall in Passaic. We want to thank our Congressman Bill Pasquale, our Senators Bob Menendez and Senators Cory Booker. We now have a total of $14 million. We're looking to add an additional 300 parking spaces for the public and to enhance our commercial district. Thank you very much. As well as with the additional funds, we're going to look to add some technology with those amazing sensors that will allow individuals right on their phone through apps to recognize whether or not there are available spaces. You might be driving down from far off and they'll tell you if there's 10 spaces, 20 spaces, or no spaces. So we're excited about that. I also want to take this opportunity to commend and thank Council President Shayer in his other role as Assemblyman for hosting two very successful outreach workshops in the community explaining the anchor program, which is tax relief as well as an additional income relief for renters and property owners. There was an extension on the deadline. Unfortunately, and many are familiar, there is sometimes a gap with the communication, and those who are unaware of this resource, well, how will they benefit or capitalize from it? Well, our assemblyman led, along partnering with individuals in the community, a successful outreach at the Boys and Girls Club in one of our most densely populated areas in the city, and many families were able to sign up and benefit directly from that additional fund that has been made available. over the last month, we are continuing to celebrate 150th year anniversary for the city of Passaic. Two amazingly successful events. We brought in some celebrities. Alex Sensation, who's from Passaic, globally recognized DJ and entertaining, performed a free event for all residents of the city. They were allowed to sign up online and get access to come in, and it was a wonderful activity. We also had at the African American celebration at School 8 to Mr. Morales and Mr. Mangarelli. Mr. DMC from Run DMC, Mr. Daryl McDaniels came and spoke to our children. He shared, and for those of you who are not familiar, and aren't aware, I mean, everybody doesn't know every single lyric to every Run DMC song verbatim like Councilman Daniel Schwartz does. But for those of he does really, actually, he's wearing Adidas right now. But what I wanted to share was he spoke about his inspiration, the fact that he is in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and he told our children they can be anything they want to be. He wrote two children's books and he presented them to the kids, as well as a series of comic books, all with positive affirmation and inspiring stories to encourage our children to believe they can do anything that they want. So we were very excited about that. We also had two very successful volunteer days with Habitat for Humanity working on our VFW that is coming along. 3 years to the month when we announced we would save that building for our veterans with a unique and innovative creative project of having residential opportunities, affordable housing for veterans and income eligible residents. Well, if you go by Summer Street, 135 Summer Street, we're almost done. And we are the only city in the United States of America to have put forward this initiative in order to save a VFW. We are hoping this model is recreated throughout the nation to serve our VFWs, and we are presently in the works to have this become a veterans resource center, not just a VFW, a place for young veterans, those of every war and all those related to veterans and those who serve or in one way or another connected. They can go there to enjoy, celebrate, and honor the brave men and women who every single day, today and in our history, and hopefully in the future, defend the most sacred rights and privileges that we have. So we're so grateful for that. I also wanted to share that we are going to continue with all of our celebration activities, and we are blessed to do so. But most recently, we recognize the 1 year anniversary of the conflict in Europe between Russia and the Ukraine. There was a vigil, candlelight service that was held at, I believe it was St. Nicholas Church right here in Passaic. Congressman Bill Pasquale, Mayor Ray Grabowski from Clifton, and representatives from Congressman Josh Gottheimer's office all were present as we came together with clergy and community to call out for peace, to recognize the hurt that so many experience directly and indirectly, and to hope that all on every side would be guided to remember that peace and unity is not easy. And if we are to war, we should war for those things. We should fight for the future of our generations to come and fight that we would have peace. So these were the activities and events that occurred throughout the city. Council President, that is the extent of that report. And now I am privileged, I am most honored, if I may, I would like to stand in order to present this proclamation. I want to go into the history and details of why we're doing this proclamation, obviously because of the commitment of this individual, but I was also told to remind everyone that this specific honoree is the mother of retired Captain Rigo Ramirez, and also she is the grandmother-in-law of Detective Mark Watkins Jr., who is here. Big round of applause. And the granddaughter of current Officer Jasmine Watkins. I would imagine grandmother. Yes, it's granddaughter. All right. Now, if we may, you would allow me to read this into the record, as this will go on our local cable channel. This proclamation, on behalf of the city of Passaic, reads as follows. Whereas Margarita Colon was born on June 5th, 1949, in Gurabo, that's it, there we go, Gurabo, Puerto Rico. In 1965, at the age of 16, Margarita relocated from Puerto Rico to the great city of Passaic, which is celebrating 150-year anniversary, where she has remained a resident to this present day. Margarita worked for many years for Carmet Factory, where she assembled metal parts for machines to include features used for aviation. She worked for this company right up to the time that they closed and moved their operation to Florida. And whereas Margarita applied and started working for the city of Passaic as a school crossing guard and has loved every minute of it, that is a direct quote. On any given day, you will find her at Parker Avenue and Harrison Street waving at the children and passerbys. And if I may inject, I can attest to the fact that as mayor, I've seen her hand come up and tell my car, stop. That's right. You wave right there to the children. I'm serious. That has happened a number of times. Whether it was rainy, snowy, cold, or sunny, you could see Margarita smile from a block away, bringing sunshine and light to every single day. I threw that in there. When you love your job, it does not feel like work. And that is how she was able to effortlessly serve for 27 and a half years in this city. Margarita plans to spend more time with her amazing and beautiful family, including her 9 grandchildren, 14 great grandchildren. You must have not heard me. 14 great grandchildren, and travel to different parts of the world, inviting the mayor to come with her. Margarita is proud to have raised her 2 sons in the city of Passaic, who are today productive members of society. Her oldest son also served the city of Passaic and retired as a police captain, and her youngest son serves as the senior pastor of Harvest Outreach Ministry. God bless. Margarita will continue to serve as an elder member of Harvest Outreach Ministry, praying for all those in need and serving her Lord and personal Savior, Jesus Christ, until her last days. Now, therefore, I, Hector C. Laura, Mayor of the City of Passaic, along with our City Council and the residents of Passaic, honor Margarita Colon as a distinguished citizen for her 27 and a half years of outstanding service and commitment to the youth of Passaic in her role as a school crossing guard. Thank you so very much for your service. Margarita, on behalf of the City Council, we present you with not just this proclamation, but this certificate. Many members of your family wear badges and they respond to calls, but every single day you are out there protecting our children, our families, and being a remarkable ambassador of the very best of what our city represents. Your faith, your compassion, your commitment has made our city better. Thank you, and we celebrate you. Please come and receive. We're going to ask the family to come up. Just throw your phones everywhere. Here, catch it and take a picture. It's a big family. It's a big award. Please come next to us. Just into the center where the council is.
Now you know you need to get in the front. There's no way they can see. Ellen.
Council President, that concludes my update.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Any questions for the mayor on his comments? Seeing none at this time, Mr. Mayor, we thank you so much for the presentation done to Ms. Colon, and this council joins you in congratulating her and thanking her for so many years of service, really at the forefront of all of our work here in the city of Passaic. With the council's permission, we'd like to go into our agenda, Roman numeral 6. If you don't have a copy of the agenda and you would like to, please get on the city's website and you can follow along with us. Roman numeral 6, Green Acres Grant Programs, public hearing is required. Notice published in the newspaper on February 19, 2023, posted on the City of Passaic website on February 10, 2023. The purpose of this hearing is to obtain public comment on a park development grant application to be submitted to the Green Acres Grant Programs. The application is for improvements to 3rd Ward Veterans Memorial Park, located at Passaic Avenue and Van Houten Avenue in Passaic, New Jersey, including the installation of a rubberized walking, running path around the baseball field and the rubberization of the Mayor Johnson Playground within the park and other playground amenities. Is there a motion, please, to open public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. Roll call, please.
Councilman Monk,
Yes.
Councilman Love,
Yes.
Councilwoman Mello,
Yes.
Councilman Schwartz,
Yes.
Councilman Garcia,
Yes.
and Council President Scher.
Yes, thank you. For all of you who are listening into this meeting at home or with us physically here in City Hall, this is an opportunity for people to comment, to ask questions, to learn what the idea is behind the application, which of course is to improve all of our parks, but that approval comes in several different ways and fashions. If you would like to speak with us, and we would value your input, if you bear with me just a moment, we would ask you to please call us at 929-436-2866. That's 929-436-2866. And if you would please enter the meeting ID number 898-9261-2341. Again, 898-9261-2341. And please press *9. Again, those numbers, if you would like to ask questions, concerns, anything regarding this application, we ask you to please call us at 929-436-2866. Meeting ID number 898-9261-2341, *9. Madam Clerk, do we have anyone on the phone?
Yes,
Council
we do.
President, if I may? This is
Yes,
Rick
Mr. Fernandez, you're just the one I was going to ask to present, please.
Yeah, I was just going to say, Council President, if you'd like to hold the questions till we have a very brief PowerPoint presentation that I think will answer a lot of the questions beforehand. And then if you don't mind, then you can go into the questions. Is that okay with you,
That is
Councilman?
perfectly wonderful, as long as you can snap your fingers in the appropriate way to make it
Yes,
come up.
absolutely, not a problem. So let me just share my screen. Okay. All right, everybody at home, as well as all the council members and the mayor, should have this before them. So the reason that there are two hearings.
Mr. Fernandez,
Yes.
Mr. Fernandez, I'm sorry, before you begin, could you, I'm reading in front of me and everyone at home is seeing as well, NJDEP Urban Parks and Green Acres Public Hearing. Could you explain what all that means and why we're doing this tonight?
Yes, absolutely. So it's actually two grants. That is why you have two hearing notices before you this evening. One is the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection Urban Parks Grant, which is a maximum of $500,000. And then you have your, again, from the DEP, the Department of Environmental Protection, the Green Acres Grant, which is over $1 million that you can receive. So the Urban Parks Grant is a much more competitive grant. And whatever is left over, let's say we are successful in the urban parks grant and we get the $500,000, the difference can also go to Green Acres. And if we're not successful, we still have a Green Acres application that can get us over $1 million for the project. So that's kind of why you see two hearings before you this evening. Also, as you read, this is for Third Ward Memorial Park. The interesting thing about this year and compared to other years is that normally we have a matching grant where 25% of our project, or whatever the amount is awarded by Green Acres, the city would have to match. For the first time this year, this grant does not require a match from the city. So there are some things that we had to do that are a little different than other years, hence why you see this presentation this evening, as well as the fact that you have both of these applications before you. So just for the public's reference, this is Third Ward Memorial Park. Everything outlined in blue is Third Ward Memorial Park. The areas that are shaded in red are the areas for these grant improvements. One section is Mayor Johnson Park, which is between Benson and Tennyson. As you can see, it does need some help, a facelift. And I can tell you the mayor has been adamant to all of us to make sure that every park looks pristine and to avoid having the runoff of all the mulch that we rubberize the surface. So part of this project is to rubberize this entire field that has been the direction of the mayor for quite some time now. He has been extremely vocal to the public as well as this council about his desire to do so. And this would be, I believe, park number 3 or 4 already in the process of being able to be rubberized. The second component is the track. Now, as a individual who grew up in this town my whole life, and the mayor and I would run around this track through high school. This actually used to have a sanded track around the park that kind of disappeared throughout the years and became, I don't even know what to call it. Just say it's a mess, right? So one of the things the mayor was talking about as well, another initiative that he has been very vocal about, and this would be if we're awarded the 3rd rubberized track. We already got one in Pulaski. We already have one in number 11 School Park. This would be the 3rd park. So this is kind of the general design of the park. The rubberized surface would follow along the current shape of the ball field. And then the entire park of Mayor Johnson is looked to be renovated. As we all know, we are trying to also mitigate some flooding factors in the area. There's a major redesign of Benson Avenue that the mayor's also been very vocal and has showed the designs. But we included in this area of the park a proposed rain garden as well to hopefully stop the runoff from going off Tennyson into Benson. So there is that flood mitigation concept part of this project. So what changed from the previous years to this year? So normally you have to do the public hearing. So that's what we're doing right now is posted 15 days prior. We put it in the official newspaper. There's a link to the project on our city website, and we're here before you for the resolutions to be passed before the council meeting. But one of the added requirements that came along with not having this match is this community engagement component. Now, the city of Passaic is definitely no stranger, especially under this administration and this mayor, to community outreach. But this was made very specific as part of the grant. Hence why tomorrow is our deadline. And today, the council was so kind enough to move the date back to this evening so that we can fulfill our community engagement component. So when did this all start? Well, the community engagement started with none other than our mayor way before we even started putting together the application through social media. He received a number of posts. In fact, you see here, there's over 164 comments with over 453 likes. regarding the ball field and the track around the ball field. So we already, before we did anything else, have over 500 individuals that have participated and commented on this proposal. So to go further, because as I stated before, the Urban Parks Grant is very competitive. We put together a survey that you could take online, a survey that is hard copy. Individuals will be able to scan the code and it'll take you right to the survey or right to the link of our website that showed you what the project was going to be. So we started with a survey. Everybody, these are our seniors. There was a senior event. We went out there with tablets. They were answering all the surveys. They were extremely excited to give us their comments. These are the results. Over 347 responses and counting. I don't know as of right now how many there's put up at this moment, but I can tell you that the two most important things throughout the entire survey was that people go to the park to walk or run or to use the playground, which is specifically what we are doing in this proposal for Third Ward Park. There were other questions that we did have throughout the survey. These are just a few samplings of that survey. I encourage any of the council members that haven't done so to go and take the survey. One of the things that came out of it, again, this is nothing new to the council members, and the mayor knows and has really directed us to look at all-inclusive sensory equipment. Resoundingly, the responses were that they wanted more throughout our park system, which is what we intend to do with Colonel Johnson's playground. I'm sorry, Mayor Johnson's playground. So what did we do? We did not just stop at surveys. Well, why would we stop there? We already have over 1,000 responses in surveys and the mayor's posting. We thought, let's get the kids involved, right? The mayor's always adamant about making sure that our entire community gets a say in what it is that we're doing. And we did pop-up events where the children and the parents at different recreational activities were able to participate by placing stickers on items that they wanted to see added to this park. As you can see here are some photographs of the activities. The poster board was up. If you see probably the best picture is either the lower left or the second one on the upper left as well, that they're putting stickers on to their favorite equipment that they're going to put into the park. The results were, again, all-inclusive sensory equipment. B, the merry-go-round, the inclusive, accessible merry-go-round, B got the most votes with 50. And then the wheelchair swing was second with 30 votes as part of the process. So her children have also voted and want to see these items that we will incorporate as part of the project. So we took every avenue possible to get as much community outreach to all segments of our population, seniors, children, middle age, it didn't matter. There was no stone left unturned. Everybody had an opportunity to vote on what they wanted to see, and all these items will be incorporated as part of this project. And the project really conceived from the mayor's mind to the responses from all our residents make this project what we are presenting before you today and what is part of this hearing. At this point, I want to thank everybody for giving me the opportunity to go over the project. And if there are any questions, again, Council President, this presentation is meant for both hearings.
You'll stay with us on the line. Yes, Mr. Fernandez.
Absolutely, sir.
Very good. Do we have anyone on the phone?
Yes, we do. We have someone with the phone number ending in 0035.
If your phone number ends in 0035,
Hi, good evening, council members. Good evening, Mr. Fernandez. My name is Joseph. I live at 71 Spring Street. I was wondering if the business administrator and the mayor's office had a chance to do an analysis of the long-term costs of a rubberized running track versus a pavement running track. And in that question, I want to know also is, does this bid require a specification for what type of surface is going to be on the running track? I know the mayor spoke about during COVID how the rubberized tracks have, there may be their antimicrobial, I don't know if that's was one of the considerations, but I think for a playground where kids are playing and they can fall, that would actually be a plus. But on a running track where it's meant specifically or mostly for adults, or that's usually the use of running tracks, not little children, again, I'm curious about the cost long term. And if also the present cost, what is it more expensive or is it less expensive to install a rubberized running track versus a pavement running track? Of course, in the playgrounds, I think a rubberized surface is much better, despite the fact that if you go visit the many parks at Passaic, you can see a lot of deterioration already in these pretty new surfaces. They don't seem to hold up as well as other surfaces, but they are safer. So I want to know about the costs long term, because this grant is an initial seed, but the city's going to have to maintain long term these surfaces. Thank you.
Mr. Fernandez, did you catch what the gentleman had said?
Yes, and to answer his questions as briefly as possible, the answer is yes and yes. So the specifications will have what type of surface, and yes, we did a study, and interestingly enough, running tracks, pavement is actually bad. So what happens is pavement, it wears your knees down and can actually create greater issues for the runner and jogger. As far as maintenance is concerned, it's significantly lower cost maintenance and continual maintenance of a, let's say a sand which was there, or grass, or dirt for that matter. There's constant maintenance that is needed. So this is a longer lasting material where there should be limited maintenance, but obviously there's wear and tear and everything. And eventually things will damage, but you can fix specific sections, and which is what we have been doing throughout, all the years that we've had the tracks. I mean, these tracks were not put in yesterday. I think everybody knows since the mayor's been here, we're pushing over 6 or 7 years of this administration. So that was very early on. One of his first approaches was the rubberization of these tracks. In fact, it was at his direction that we completed the circular track at number 11 school, because there were areas that were not connected, and he wanted to make sure that it was connected and that the surface was converted from concrete, which is what it used to be, to the artificial rubberized surface. So it's been very successful, and studies have shown that that is the type of material that you want to have. Mayor, I don't know if you want anything to add.
Thank you, Mr. Administrator. Yes, rubberized surface becomes more conducive for different individuals to participate in this sport, including seniors. We've really taken the approach to enhance senior recreation. You can see the addition on Howard Ave with the pickleball court, which is very popular. It's a smaller size tennis court, but these rubber there are just too many cars driving. It makes it really hard to go for a morning walk, especially if you're specifically tracking your steps on whatever device, whether on your watch or your phone. You're constantly looking over your shoulder. The other thing that I want to share, and I want to remind individuals of NJDP urban parks, in communities like ours, running track is one of the few sports where it really doesn't matter how much money you have. And allow me to explain. With every other sport, whether lacrosse, tennis, football, baseball, there's a significant investment that has to be made for equipment. Sometimes that cost on parents, and we may argue what's significant, but that cost on parents could be a burden. With track, and we have a number of our young people who have received scholarships to college for track, you basically need sneakers. And for some, they run without them on the rubberized track. So we get very excited at the opportunity that young people may be able to go out there early or maybe right before the sun gets down and they get to run on a public track and still enjoy open space. And we're very excited about this opportunity. Again, it enhances, I believe, the park, the rubberized initiative. Look, I'm a parent, 4 kids who are under 13 years old. I take them to the parks often. And I do want to highlight, if I may, option F, the inclusive equipment of the tunnel. I have to say this. So I went out on the Sabbath, in Tennyson Park, which we call it Tennyson Park, right on Tennyson. It was full of children. So as my kids are playing and I'm there, I got to talk to a lot of the kids, and they love the park, but they wanted it modernized. They wanted some additions. So I went back a few days and started asking, what would you want to see? And I will admit to you, and the reason I'm doing this, it is a point of privilege, is option F was the request of the most adorable little girl that you will have ever seen in your life. And her eyes were so wide, and she said, man, I want a tunnel around the park. I said, you want a tunnel under the park? She said, no, around the park where you could go in and you can climb. And she was so full of enthusiasm. And so it was just amazing. So we explored the option. I just want to point it out and put it on the record. I put it out that some of the kids didn't pick it, but that's because they didn't see her presentation, and I cannot do justice. If I brought her here to
Ladies and
present,
gentlemen, we now all of us publicly learn the way to the mayor's heart. If
yeah,
you didn't
so,
already
because
know.
if she made this presentation, everyone would be writing checks out. I'm telling you, you wait till she's ready to run for office. It was amazing. But I want to share that because we went out of our way to get input from the community. And regarding the track, I just wanted to point that out because we spoke to seniors. We spoke to individuals that walked there during the evening. And everyone, well, I don't say everyone, politicians are fond of hyperbole and exaggerate often. The great majority of individuals responded. We would love a rubberized track. People would love to go to the stadium and utilize the Boverini track, but they can't. So this gives us an opportunity to have a rubberized track in every ward, one in third ward, one in our second ward, and one near our first and fourth ward, giving recreation opportunity, enhancing the parks, and encouraging fitness for all ages and all generations. And I think our business administrator did a fantastic job, but I wanted people to know where we got the options for the equipment. We went around and asked children, we asked seniors, we went out to the park while they were playing, said, what would you want to see there? And Council President, members of the City Council, we're blown away at the fact that children were very concerned that other children with different abilities, those in wheelchairs, those that sometimes become overwhelmed because of sensory issues, may not have the same opportunities to play. And these suggestions didn't come from individuals who would only be directly impacted. It came from other children saying, I'm worried about the other kids. We want to make sure they have opportunities too. That's encouraging, not just for today, but for the future of our great city. Thank you, sir.
Mr. Mayor, thank you so much. Madam Clerk, do we have anyone else?
Not on the Zoom, no.
Is there anyone else who would like to address the council on this Green Acres Grant Programs public hearing? Yes, sir.
Hi, how are you? Calvin Wingo, 35 Garfield Avenue, Passaic. So as a 26-year resident, my front door opens onto the park every morning. I see the traffic, I see the number of people utilizing the park. One of the issues I do have about the proposal is not seeing the financials disclosure on the cost of the track. I would basically, we had a quick impromptu meeting at the boathouse the other night and got a glimpse of it. The question became, why not do the third ward park gym area just in rubberized, just like Mayor Johnson is being, Major Johnson's park is being proposed. Also, Major Johnson went under a renovation a few years ago and had all the equipment that's in there was replaced. So my question becomes, while the necessity or the want to have a running track there, I've been a resident since it was the dirt and gravel. Possibly the dollar utilization would be to put a gravel and rubberized component track on that baseball field, not a fully rubberized one, to mitigate some of the cost, and put that cost dollars into rubberizing the other playground area in the Third Ward Park. I know these are dollars that are being given to you from the Green Acres program, and it's a get it while you can get it situation. It's not dollars coming from the community budget. And I think that might spread it around a little bit better in the foregoing situation. Now, I understand the need to want to have accommodate some of the seniors and handicap with a surface that's more accommodating to them. Yes, totally understand that. But the dollars are there for a larger, a greater set of improved capabilities than just the track. And that was my only comment.
I believe one of the issues that we might have is exactly what you pointed out, sir, and that is the cost. The funds that are paying for this now as a result of the mayor's amazing abilities, frankly, to know the way to phrase it. All these monies are coming to us from the state or the council, the federal government. To rubberize the whole entire park on Third Ward would just be cost prohibitive.
No.
No.
I'm not talking about the whole.
The playground we're
We're
speaking
only
of.
talking about the playground in the park, that area around the gym set, which is currently mulched, just like the one in Major Johnson is. That would be a major safety benefit for the most of the residents. If you're there on any given day, you can see the volume disparity between the two parks. The one in Third Ward gets significantly more traffic and more utilization than Major. I think both need that rubberized capability. I just don't see the utility of spending close to $1 million or more on rubberizing track around the baseball field and not using funds to mitigate that other issue.
And Council President, if I may, so that is an excellent point. And I would even propose to you a very pragmatic view and approach. Often, I wish government operated with more common sense. Here's what happens, and it is not a reflection of anything, but just we're not always exposed to it. And as lay citizens, when you're privy to the application process, and I've been fortunate to serve on the county level when they awarded open space, and on the state, working very closely with the assemblyman, I found out through experience that the more unique your application, the greater the probability of you being granted the funds. What I mean is every city puts in for a brand new football field. Every city puts in for turf. So what happens is we've done a number of rubberized parks. We've done the surface for playgrounds, pointing to safety issues, children with special needs. It's not a unique application in the sense that we apply for $1 million so we can do all our rubberized parks, and the response would be, well, what about every other city? They want rubberized parks as well. They want rubberized surfaces for their playgrounds. We've received some of those awards. In order for our application to stand out, and I'll point something out, which was a bit of a point of contention before, and I won't go too much into it, but the synthetic ice skating rink, which we received open space. When people are going, why? I was going, because that money's going to go somewhere else. And I was there. I remember I was part of those discussions on the county. I know what will draw the money in. So sometimes the plan is unique. The presentation is different, and we make a compelling argument. This does not exist here, and there is really almost no way we're going to fund it through the municipality, no budget. So when the argument is compelling enough that there is no other means for the resource and it does not already exist, and the likelihood of us coming back to an application like this at that high of a number is very low, then it's more favorably received. So to be plain is this, I think the application is just more unique. We're going to get money for all the playgrounds, but that's going to be a slow process. They're not going to give us $1 million or $5 million to take care of 10 playgrounds at one time. They're going to give us the $60,000 for the playground, and then what's the big ask that you have? I'll point to the $12 million we got for Dundee Island Park. because it was the very first riverfront or waterfront park in Passaic County. So we were able to make a compelling argument to get county and state and work with the Army Corps of Engineers, and we're very excited. How did we get another 6 million for that project? Well, we didn't go and say, hey, we want to extend the waterfront portion. We said we want to unite two parks and create even more open space, ensuring environmental justice, social justice, giving exposure to children to nature, removing blighted train tracks, creating additional public parking. The application was unique enough. The argument was compelling enough in the most densely populated area of our city that we were able to make a phone call to the assemblyman and say, come on, man, get us the money. And that's the extra part because he's on the state. So we have to give them something to work with. So here's all that to say, I agree with you. I would rather do the playground, but we can't fund it ourselves, all of these great projects that we want. So when we go after funds, when we go after an NJDP urban grant for environmental funds, we need to make the argument of what's unique of our city, why we can do it. That's why you hear me speak about the education component, the scholarship component for kids that can't afford to buy the lacrosse sticks or the football equipment, but they can run around the track and they can exercise. And then the seniors, because senior recreation is so important and very few cities are addressing it. We've been able to expand our senior program to over 400 participants, and we've been able to do field trips and activities within the city. So adding an amenity that can assist me when I ask the council, can we apply for an additional 100,000 for senior services? I would point to the additional amenity. So it can be subjective. Sometimes what I consider compelling and unique, someone else might say, yeah, but Mayor, I don't know if I agree, we would want it somewhere else. I just want you to know the reasoning because we're pretty transparent. We try the best we can to say it's just the application. We think this one would have the most probability of succeeding in getting us the funds. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you, Mayor. Is there anyone else who would like to address the council on the Green Acres Grant Program's public hearing? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Hindi Garfinkel, 74 Mineral Springs.
Excuse me, if you could bring the microphone. Thank you.
Sorry. So first of all, thank you for always looking out for additional resources for our community. It's really appreciated. And I appreciate the reaching out to the community with the survey and everything. These areas have been really hard hit in the past few years with drastic weather events. And you mentioned the rain garden, but can you speak to more of what you're doing to kind of mitigate some of the damage? We've seen a lot of damage to the tennis courts that have been redone a couple times over the years. We've seen damage to that playground, to all of our parks. So is there anything aside from the rain garden being done? And can you also clarify where that rain garden is? So we can protect some of our spaces so we're not redoing them every few years. And I appreciate that you're using grant money to do all these renovations, but it does tax some system.
Mr. Fernandez, are you still on the wire with us? Mr. Fernandez?
I think he's still on mute. If you can unmute him, Renee, while waiting for Mr. Fernandez. Council President, I remind you of the rain garden we built in front of Hughes Lake. Hughes Pond, right in Third Ward, before the business administrator goes in. We had initially proposed through engineering a street elevation, which would be very costly, you can imagine, in terms of infrastructure funds. But through research and trying to see, and we were doing our due diligence, what have been done in other municipalities and other states, we decided to take the approach of trying out a rain garden, investing a lot of the resources that we already had with DPW, as well as specific drains that would lead water into our storm drains. It actually worked very well in front of Hughes Lake. We've seen it at very minimal cost. So that's some of the reasons why we decided to go with the rain garden right by the field itself. But I point to that because I know the business administrator is going to go into the fact that we have spoken through our engineering department. We had the head of the NJDP, Mr. Sean Latourette, who came with our assemblyman, Gary Scher, and myself, and we walked the entire area to show him specifically flooding concerns, and obviously with a greater frequency of these storms that have been adversely impacting the area, we wanted to see what we can practically do. By Benson, it's going to be the elevation. Even the culverts that are being built, the bridges, we need to bring that street up. That costs a lot of money. That is in the works, but I don't want to take too much away from the business administrator while he was on mute. Rick, you're back on?
Yeah, I guess Zoom had enough of hearing my voice and it didn't let me unmute myself. It kept saying the host doesn't want me to unmute myself. So finally, I was allowed to unmute myself. Thank you, Weatherly. Just one thing to piggyback on the mayor's original comments about applications. Mayor, I know that if you recall, we just received Green Acres money last round to do the splash pad with a rubberized surface in that vicinity. Having another application in the same vicinity would actually lower our score. We wouldn't be as competitive. I just wanted to add that to reinforce your story. And then secondly, these are concepts. All the estimates are on line for you to take a look at what the costs are. We ask for everything and anything we could possibly think of at the highest cost. Why? Because if we get the funding, there's no cost to the municipality. And secondly, we can then work back from that because these are concepts. So if things, let's say it's a $3 million project, we receive $2 million, then we sit down looking at all the responses from the residents and the mayor's direction, and we figure out, okay, what is it that we're going to focus on at this round in time? The rain gardens is something that is actually gives us that uniqueness and added benefit in competitive grants because you're looking at the park or at least the repairs and rehabilitation of those areas holistically, which also has environmental impact. So it's not just, oh, we're putting a rubberized surface so kids could jump around, or we're putting another swing set so kids could swing. We're also looking at the environment, rain gardens. In fact, in that connection of the two parks that the mayor was talking about, we actually, and one of the things he wanted to make sure that we did, especially with the school so close by, is that we had an educational component for those environmentally sensitive mitigation factors. So there hopefully will be a deck that they can walk over this rain garden and children can be taught about the necessity and how they function environmentally. So that's just an added component that we have seen that is very successful, something that the mayor's wanted us to address. And not only does it mitigate flooding issues, it also has an educational component. Locations of things would really depend on the type, how much funding, and when we lay out all the equipment that's going to be added. So I want to thank the resident for his comments. One thing the mayor will tell you, we don't like to throw things out, right? Especially brand new equipment. So the idea is to continue with the current equipment in good shape and supplement it with these inclusive equipment and things of that nature. And then items that are no longer, are past their lifespan would then be removed and replenished with newer equipment. It's kind of the
Thank you,
overall.
So, Council President, if please excuse me, I just want to make sure, trees, to Mrs. Hindi, forgive me. We've planted over 500 trees. One of the things that we're really looking at is those willow trees that absorb so much of the water. Some of the areas by Benson that after the flood remain so drenched in water, it was so hard to walk, even though it rained 2 weeks ago and you still feel like the storm is there. Those are some of the approaches, but I want to point back, and I know the business administrator spoke of this, the engineering approach, the street elevation, infrastructure, finding out whether we can raise the culvert because we can't go down. There's a natural spring that runs under this city, goes into the Passaic River. So when we have rain, and if we get 2 inches over 12 hours or 2 days, we're fine. It's when we get about 2 inches of rain within 2 hours that the elevation of the pond, the brook goes up, floods, goes into the street. The way that it's shaped right now, the difference between the elevation levels almost makes it more conducive for the flooding that continues to occur. That's the millions of dollars. It's millions of dollars. The trees, there are over 500 trees that we've planted in the past 2 years in Thurman Park is one approach, an environmental infrastructure approach. There's another proposal that I presented. Going down Benson is 2 ways. I propose having one side alone be the street and then extending the green, the grass. And that is almost, and it's referred to as environmental infrastructure development, something like that. I may have gotten the terminology complete, but you get the point. Those are some of the approaches because we don't have all of the money that we need. And that's why we continue to call the Assemblyman's office and say, get us more money.
Thank you, Mayor. Is there anyone else who would like to comment on Roman numeral 6, Green Acres Grant Programs? Public hearing is required.
My name is Linda LaPera, and I live with this guy in the house. We've been married since '99. We've owned the home since '97. We've completely renovated. We love living in the park. I love the proposals that are being presented. I think that there were a couple of issues that came up in a Third Ward Park Association meeting we had. One is just assurance that the flooding issues are addressed on the field. Apparently, people used to use the track in the field, but it got so muddy that it's not used anymore and it's kind of disappeared. So just assurances that the flooding issue will be addressed. Also, the questions came up about team usage of the field. Obviously, you don't want to be running on the track when there's a baseball game going on. So I'm proposing that there be rules for use of the field in the track. So those are big, costly issues, and certainly what you discussed on Benson is enormous. Those two people that passed away a few years ago was absolutely tragic. But there are some minor issues that, as residents of the park and walkers of the park, there need to be some issues like parking addressed at the playground on beautiful days. It's really tough. Or around the boathouse. It gets pretty congested. I'm not sure what the solutions are, maybe some lines, parking lines, but just something to address the overcrowded parking on the weekends. The other issue that we've noticed a big uptick in is litter. I don't know how old everybody is here, but I remember the commercials with the American Indian, the Native American with the tear coming down his face, that, littering is pollution. So perhaps some kind of friendly signs about littering and picking up after your pet. One of the nasty parts of living in front of the park is people have their dogs poop in front of our home. Just some friendly signs to say, these are some park rules that are critical for safe use of the park. And no smoking signs as well. I don't think people realize that you can be ticketed for smoking in the park. And I think if they knew that, they might be less inclined to do so. The other thing, you mentioned a lot of traffic in the park. Well, years ago, the park used to be closed on weekends. I don't propose that we close them again, but the fences are all broken. At the end of every street, we have fences and they're all broken. If we could address that, it would be a great benefit for when we do want to close the park. This is a completely different issue, the old clay courts, which is something we talked about. I think we've talked about in the
Ma'am,
past.
I'm going to, please don't hit me too much. I need you on this proposal only.
Okay. All I wanted to say about that is I'm glad it's in use. I hope we're getting paid for it because it is a tough piece of property for public use since the street is right there. So I understand. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your comments. Anyone else like to address the council?
This is still on item, correct?
This is still on Green Acres, Councilman, yes.
Joe Conoscenti, 170 Broadway. My first question about this, how much time do you have to do this project?
I'm sorry, sir, could you explain your question?
Very simple. How much time do you have to do this, to have this project being done?
How long will it take or?
No,
Yeah,
the timeframe that you
Because
have
you're getting help from Green Acres, so do they have a deadline or there's no
Usually
deadline?
the deadline can extend anywhere from 5 to 15 years.
That's what I'm asking. Okay, my question is, since the place is a disaster, phase 5, become the big flood of Benson Court. So my question is, you want to put a rubberized field, all this rubberized, you're going to have drainage. So where's the drain water is going to go? It's going to go back in the brook. Where else are you going to have it drain to? Because if you go from the baseball field, you can't go all the way to Main Avenue to put a pipe. So you're going to run it right across into the brook. So what are you going to have? You're going to have more flooding. So my suggestion to this project is you should fix the flood area first. Then you can go into this project, which it sounds good for the children. They went from Mayor Johnson's to a blue park. I guess you're still going to keep it under the blue park. You got big problems there, very big problems down there. I have another suggestion to do in that area. Somebody has started with the concrete walls. So why can't, in that one area from Pennington to Main Avenue, continue the concrete walls and make them almost 3 foot higher? And you don't have all that run water on the street and all over the ball fields and the playground, and everything is gonna go back to square one if you don't do that. And my other idea is, why can't you close that area off? Block off Pennington Avenue, make it a one-way, and have no cars into the Benson Court. And you can make it an attractive area, which you want to spend money, so you might as well make it attractive area. You could bring kids from other parts of the Passaic to play there, have a nice park and playground. You don't need cars in there. For what reason? For what reason you need all the cars over there? You got guys probably doing drinking, drugs, everything there. Nobody's around. You need more lighting in that area. It's dark. Concentrate on that stuff first before you start wasting money like you did on the tennis court. That was a waste of money. Because the place got wiped out, completely wiped out. And you go spend more money.
Mr.
doing
Constantine,
it again.
we're not on this topic, but
It's all the
wanted-
same
I
subject.
just wanted to get clarity on one thing. You said it was all washed out. When did that occur, that washout?
The what?
That washed out, when did that occur?
The
What year?
washout. What are you talking about?
You just said that that area was washed out with the storm. Which
The
storm?
storm, the last big storm where the 2 kids got killed 2 years ago.
Is that the one where cars were covered in water all over the state and half of the country? And
I'm talking about the park specifically. I'm not talking about the whole state.
well, the only reason I'm
Okay.
saying it is
If it
because
was blacked off
Mr.
and those kids was
Conoscenti,
done,
Mr.
they wouldn't have drowned over
Mr.
there.
Conoscenti,
okay?
I can talk over you.
Well, I can talk
Trust
over
me.
you too, really
Mr.
well.
Conoscenti, thank you for your comments, sir.
Yeah, I know. I know you don't want to hear the truth.
Thank you for your comments. When there's respect on one side, there needs to be respect on the other. Is there anyone else who would like to address this council?
You have someone on the Zoom, Council President.
I'm sorry, ma'am.
You have someone on Zoom.
Can we bring that person up, please?
Please unmute yourself, phone number ending 0035.
Good evening. I just wanted to, first of all, I wanted to thank again, I didn't get a chance to thank the mayor and the business administrator for bringing all this money to Passaic and to the parks. I do want to ask though, about the rubberization, can we get assurances that the way the grant is being written,
Excuse me,
it's going to be available to everyone?
excuse me, one moment, sir. Just a moment, please. Susie. I know there's no time limit. That you had called in earlier, am I correct?
Yes, I used 2 minutes before and I don't know what happened, but I did.
I'm told by our council that once you relinquished speaking then,
No,
we cannot have you for the second. We can, however, place you on the next discussion, which might include what you want to do. But I cannot bring
Okay.
you on to the conversation. You've already spoken to it once. Is there anyone else that we have who would like to address the council?
No, sir.
Very good. There is no requirement of action. Am I right, Madam Clerk? Just
No.
notification that we have a public hearing.
Yes.
That being the case, is there a motion, please, to close the public hearing on Green Acres Grant Programs?
So move.
Motion and second, roll call, please.
Councilman Monk,
Yes.
Councilman Love,
Yes.
Councilwoman Mello,
Yes.
Councilman Schwartz,
Yes.
Councilman Garcia,
Yes.
and Council President Scher.
Yes, thank you. We're up to Roman numeral 7, New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection's Urban Parks and Green Acre Grants Program. Public hearing is required. Notice was published in the newspaper on February 19th, 2023, and posted on the City of Passaic website on February 10, 2023. The purpose of this hearing is to obtain public comment on a park development grant application to be submitted to the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection's Urban Parks and Green Acres Grants Program. This application is for improvements to 3rd Ward Veterans Memorial located at Passaic Avenue, and Van Houten Avenue, Passaic, New Jersey, including the installation of a rubberized walking running path around the baseball field and the rubberization of the Mayor Johnson Playground within the park and other playground amenities. If you would like to contact the council and to speak with the council and the mayor, we invite you to please do so. If you are at home, the number to call, please, is 929-436-2866. That's 929-436-2866. And to enter the meeting ID number 898-9261-2341. That's 898-9261-2341. And please press *9. Madam Clerk, do we have anyone on the wire?
Yes, we still have Mr. Wolf with his hand up.
Mr. Wolf?
Yes.
Mr. Wolf, the floor is yours, sir. Mr. Wolf, can you hear me?
Yeah. Yes, thank you. Again, I want to repeat my comments before. I do want to give credit to the mayor and to the business commissioner, Mr. Fernandez, for bringing tremendous amounts of money from the state and the federal government to the city. I do want to ask about the rubberization. Can we have assurances that the way the grant is being written, my question is, when a grant is written, it is up to the person writing the specs to determine how someone will be eligible to complete that project. So once it gets approved, it's possible that not in this case, but in another case or instance, a company that wants to have a school district that's looking for certain chairs for the auditorium, they can put on there they want 18-gauge chairs.
Excuse me. I must bring you back to the public.
I want to know if the mayor and the business commissioner can give assurances that the way the grant is being written, it opens up the opportunity for all vendors who do proper rubberization. Would they be eligible and able to bid on this project? Because when I was in school, there was rubberization. This is not a new technology. And I want to know specifically the way the grant is being written, the way the request is being written, and hopefully being approved, would allow everyone in the state of New Jersey who does proper rubberization in all school districts and all playgrounds to compete on this bid.
Yes.
By law, yes.
Yeah, Council President? Yeah.
By law, everyone who is qualified may be a part of the competition. This is not a professional services grant. This is a product, the same product to be used by any vendor. And that would be a price comparison based on ability to fulfill the obligations of the proposal.
Council President, if I may, through the Council President,
Mayor?
Through the Council President, Ms. Wolf, if I may, just to add a little bit of clarity, there are times where the discussions include previous work in the city, reputation. I'll give you an example, very brief and plain example. We've had rubberized tracks put in School Number 11, Pulaski Park, now in our Columbia Park, a small pocket park that has received very little attention, go on a rubberized surface. As you mentioned, and the business administrator pointed out, some of these parks we've had for 6 years. We've had some storms, some flooding, and they've gone into a little bit of disrepair. Some areas need to be addressed. Some of these companies not only provide the service, but they come back and fix those areas. And then there's other companies that go, we're going to bid less, and we'll come and do it one time, but any problem, you're going to have to call us in, and we're going to have to charge you for the equipment, the time, the days, and everything additional, especially if insurance doesn't cover. So these are factors that come into the conversation. But to be clear on your question, it isn't some kind of autocratic approach from the mayor says, I decide who's going to get it. It isn't a decision made in a silo. It comes before the council. There are laws around who's allowed to bid, if they're qualified, and who we're allowed to award that bid. And individual licenses are at stake when that occurs. It's not just reputation. Some people point to that and say, well, council members or the mayor just awarding any contract. No, people will lose their license if they do not follow the letter of the law in terms of the requirements of individuals to respond to these proposals, to bid, and for the awarding process. I don't know if that's clear. I just wanted to put that on the record.
Thank you, Mayor.
And Mayor, if I could add to that, if that's okay, Council President.
Please.
He was mentioning the Board of Ed. In the state of New Jersey, the Board of Ed has a completely different local public contracting law on how they bid out items and what they're allowed to use. We're under the state local public contracts law, which requires everything to be bid, or on state contract where the state did the bidding process for us.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Yes, sir. On the line. I'm sorry,
Wolf.
Mr. Wolf, are you there?
Yes. Thank you very, very much. That was good. Thank you.
Very good, sir. Thank you. Is anyone else on the wire?
No, sir.
Is there anyone else who would like to comment on this? Seeing none at this time, is there a motion, please,
So
to
moved.
close
Second.
public hearing? Motion and second. Roll call, please.
Councilman Monk,
Yes.
Councilman Love,
Yes.
Councilman Mello,
Yes.
Councilman Schwartz,
Yes.
Councilman Garcia,
Yes.
and Council President Scher.
Thank you. Susie, we fulfilled our obligation under?
Yes.
Very good. Thank you so very much. We're up to Roman numeral 8, hearing of citizens. In accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act, NJSA 10:4-1 et sec, the council opens every public meeting for comments of the public. However, in accordance with NJSA 10:4-12, nothing in this act shall be construed to limit the discretion of a public body to permit, prohibit, or regulate the active participation at any meeting. Therefore, the city council will not entertain any comments from persons who communicate obscene material, make statements which are considered bias, intimidation, in which any person attempts to intimidate any individual or group because of race, color, religion, handicap, sexual orientation, or ethnicity, or makes personally offensive or abusive, defamatory or profane comments intending to harass or speak any offensive or abusive language. The person who makes these statements will relinquish their allotted 5 minutes for public discussion. We ask, if you would like to call in, to please share with us your name and home address. Madam Clerk, do we have anyone on the wire?
No, sir.
Very good. Let me repeat once again, if I may, the numbers to call in if you would like to address the council. Those numbers are, please dial us at 929-436-2866. That's 929-436-2866. Meeting ID number 898-9261-2341. That's 898-9261-12341. And please press *9. If you would like to communicate with us now, we certainly look forward to your calls and questions.
We have Mr. Wolf with his hand up.
Mr. Wolf. Mr. Wolf. Mr. Wolf.
Yes. Hi. Good evening, Council. Good evening, Council. Good evening, City Commissioner. Good evening, Mayor. I'm reaching out to you. We have tomorrow.
Can we have your address and your name and address, please, for the record?
My name is Joseph Wolf. I live at 71 Spring Street, Passaic, New Jersey.
Thank you, sir.
Tomorrow, the planning board is meeting on multiple items. My first issue I'm reaching out to is there any way the city council could look into why I cannot see anything about the actual agendas? There is brief mention about different block and lots numbers, but there's nothing that I can see about what's going to be discussed and what plans are being proposed. My second question to this council and to the mayor and to the city commissioner is as follows. The city of Passaic is a community. We're the community of Passaic. I think you can see it on the signs at Passaic. And in the olden days of Passaic, the city council had to push developers to come into the city to develop plots, abandoned buildings, and to put up apartments for the needy housing needs of the residents. Today, even though the mayor and the city commissioner have referenced maybe one or two projects where condos or condominiums are being put up, the vast majority of projects being proposed are by one developer or multiple developers where they're putting up multifamily units where they're going to own or sell off the ownership of that one building, and the control of that building is going to be put into the hands of this ownership group, and all the people living in that building are going to be renters. And my question to this council and to the city commissioner and to the mayor is, what are we able to formulate a plan for the city? It's no longer a city where people don't want to invest. An acre of land in the city sells for $4 million today. That's despite this city council not too long ago, about 2 years ago, passing a pilot program for a developer to put up a huge building of 250 units. My question is, when a developer puts up a building that he's just trying to look at his bottom line, anything that the planning board will approve and the city council will approve afterwards is fine with him. The problem is they don't put in proper parking, they don't put in gyms, they don't put in swimming pools, they don't put in playgrounds. These are not places where disabled people are living for the rest of their lives. These are places where families are being raised, where kids are going to be raised. Where are the parks? Where's the slide? Where's the bench? Where's the parking? These apartment buildings that are being proposed are so dense. It's not fair. We don't need any more developers to come in. I think today, the way the city is run, the developers should have the lower hand, and the city should be putting forward that we want ownership. What happens is when people own a building together, like on the corner of Boulevard and Passaic Avenue, and the President Tower, they get together, and if you want to sell apartments to individual buyers who want to live in the city long term, not short term, you got to give them proper parking, because they're not going to buy it if they don't get that. They're going to want the gym. They're going to want the playground for their kids. They're going to want to know where their kids are going to sit outside on benches. But when a developer is coming in and he's going to develop the building the way he sees his bottom line, there's no more room for the people. They come afterwards, and they have no choice. The housing needs are very, very tight. There's not many apartments available, and they're at the mercy of the developer who already got the approvals from the planning board, from city council, and from the city commissioner. I'm asking you, why are we not changing the equation and understanding that, yes, we've made the city better, but now we can ask for more. Let's make the city a place where people can buy houses. You can't buy apartments and houses in the city. Let's get more buildings into condominiums, into co-ops, and let's get less buildings in the hands of one developer who's making very, very tight apartments where people cannot raise children, cannot raise families. It's not fair to them. Where's the foresight? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fernandez. Are you on the wire?
I am, sir.
Mr. Fernandez?
Yes.
I wonder if you'd like to address some of the gentleman's concerns about parking and, more importantly, process vis-a-vis the planning board and the zoning board as well.
Yeah, it's
For that
very
matter, the redevelopment board.
Yeah, I'll try to touch a little bit on all of it. Obviously, these are very broad topics, and he has his personal opinion. And it's interesting that he decides to bring this up in a day that the council has been considering parking and parks all meeting, right? So we're addressing parks and parking constantly. I think the mayor had made it very clear, and the council as well, in providing parking. Just to touch upon some of the discussions, when you're talking redevelopment, sometimes the only project that actually has any parking is the project that's being proposed for redevelopment, because the neighborhood didn't have parking, and these projects are required to have parking. Foresight Well, we can tell you that everything is planned. What you see now is many, many years down the road, from months, years of discussions and negotiations and looking at what you can do. It is very clear that some projects, without the assistance of this council and the mayor, would not have happened otherwise, such as the abatement that he was discussing, which was abandoned railroad tracks, as well as other buildings along that corridor, which suffer from a lot of contamination and other things, which the state of New Jersey created the local housing and redevelopment law specifically for these types of units. The agenda matter. The agenda was changed to streamline the calling of the docket numbers, but the residents are well within their rights to go into City Hall and look at every single application, as they've always been allowed to do, as well as take part in the hearing, which is going to go into detail. This is just an agenda, just like the city council reads off a little excerpt. They would have to look at the resolution or ordinance to understand what it is. That's what's happening in the planning board agenda for tomorrow evening. And I would argue that it is multiple individuals that are coming in to propose new projects at no. One of the discussions we've had here for a very long time has been we systematically select properties that then would allow growth surrounding them. And I'm happy to report that a lot of the planning board applications and zoning board applications are not designated redevelopment areas. These are applications that are coming in from surrounding applicants. One thing that I know the council and the mayor has said ad nausea is these individuals purchase the properties. We don't own these properties. If they're paying $4 million for an acre, God bless them. I mean, that just shows, you know, what the market is looking like in the city of Passaic. Also, home ownership is actually extremely important, but it could be to the detriment of our current demographic. All right. The city of Passaic currently, if you start converting all these homes to condos, you would actually be displacing many of our residents that cannot afford to purchase these homes. We have a very successful first-time home buyer program that we have specifically for that purpose, to get individuals to put down payments. The mayor spoke about one in his mayor update, which is the veterans VFW apartments, which is made for veterans to be able to purchase these condominiums. But to say that we would convert all these residential rentals into condominiums would actually be a greater issue and displace a lot more of the residents that may have find themselves economically challenged at this point to actually purchase those homes. And it's not like we do not have condominiums, and it's not like we don't have home ownership. It's just look at the specific area, and eventually it may grow. And the hope is that in the future, some of these larger buildings would end up being condominiums if we're able to raise the housing stock enough that the value is there. And the residents, again, because talk about foresight and vision, one of the things that the mayor is very adamant, and this council as well, is to make sure we don't change our character and who we are. I've heard that from just about every single member at this dais in many, many different occasions. And that's what we do when we plan these things out. We want to keep our character. We want to keep our residents. And one of the most important things, and I'll sum up there, is we want to keep our future generations coming back. And that's what we're trying to do. Diversify our housing stock so that you can have all different income levels come back to the city of Passaic and not leave our borders.
Council President, if I may, very quickly, I just want to point out some of the approaches to this council and my administration and a few recent developments. I won't go through all of them. I know cognizant of time. 2 Market Street. Actually, on the discussion of that development, we were able to get the property owners to invest in the Riverfront Walk. to add to the walk of Dundee Island Park connecting to Bergen County, enhancing not just the aesthetic look of the area, but practically partnering with the county, a private-public partnership, or argue private-public-public with the city. The Wall Street project, where the train tracks were removed, we were able to get the developer to build us a free police substation for the area, to have that building contributed by the developer at no cost to the city in order to have our police present in one of the areas of concern in our community, and most recently to add an additional floor for the PBA, thus allowing for off-duty police officers at no cost to the city to have a presence in the area and improving the quality of life specifically there. When you look at 211 Pennington Avenue, one of the biggest projects in the city, I imagine anyone can go by and see the amount of trees that have been planted in the area, the aesthetic additions. But not only that, I want to point that during COVID and the pandemic, the distribution of food to so many needy families were provided on that property, where the lot was made available to the community because of the relationship that was given. The Aspen Place project that we are discussing, potentially renovating buildings and providing opportunities for different income, the developers are willing to give us an additional floor on the parking lot, investing an additional $2 million to enhance public parking. That would make it from $14 million invested to the parking deck to potentially 16. I share that it's not a guarantee, it is a conversation, but I wanted to highlight, because the gentleman on the phone, and I think to be fair, there comes a point where we need to ask, are we balanced in our approach to development? That's fair. With 3.2 square miles, we need to be careful. But I would also remind individuals that our census over the last 10 years had an increase of 500 people in the city. We didn't go from 69,500 to 95,000 on the census. Now, one could argue, aren't there people that maybe weren't counted, but there was not a significant jump. You can argue whether that's good or bad, but we stayed pretty level. I wanted to point to these things because the approach that has been taken and the comments that were made, and I will again reiterate, I think it's fair that we take a step back and ask these questions. Where are we developing? How does this impact the community? How does this impact the future of our city? Where are we leaving the city for the next generation? But I want to say, this council, administration, business administrator, we have fought to make sure that developers are giving back. I think the business administrator articulated it excellently. And when someone says 3 individuals continue to buy the properties, I wish I could be fourth. I don't have $10 million to buy the buildings. If you have the money, you buy properties, you set your proposal before these specific boards, zoning, planning, redevelopment. If your I's have been dotted and your T's are crossed, you get the project. We don't get to determine who buys them, and we don't want to. I would propose to the city, you don't want the governing body to tell people you're not allowed to buy property anymore because you've bought 4 buildings already. You're not allowed to invest because you were extremely successful or you won the Mega Millions or whatever it was, you ran into money. God bless you. But if your project is responsible and it's legal and it's ethical, we make a commitment to support it no matter who you are. We do not discriminate and make distinction between the background, beliefs, approach. We just want to know what's the impact on the city. So to that extent, those are fair comments to the caller. But I wanted to point out some of the things that the city has gained: parking, walkways, benches, trees, and so much more. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Is there anyone else who would like to address the council?
All right. Good evening. Joe Conoscente, 170 Broadway. My first question that I have is Green Acres. Yes, they do have grants, but the grants are tax dollars. Any way you look at it is tax dollars. My next question would be is the BA, question for the BA, Council President.
What was your first question with Green Acres?
the grant money is tax dollars.
Okay,
To let everybody know that.
thank you.
My next question is for the BA, if he's still listening, the zoning meetings, when are they going to be live? Because right now they're visual. That's my question with the planning board, the redevelopment, the UEZ, and the alcohol, tobacco, all that stuff. That's my next question. Council President, the park named after Officer Robert D. Strong, Memorial Park across from the Boys and Girls Club, block number 1001-02, lot 6. That was named, that park was named after Robert Strong. Then later on, they put the Blue Park. Now, since that park is named after Robert Strong, why was his monument taken out of the park and put it on the outside of the park? That's my question I have on that. My next one is, over the weekend, the body shop on Main Avenue between Gregory and Prospect by the Armory Park across the street. The body shop, they're using city parking meters to park the vehicles from customers, and the vehicles don't work. And they're not putting money in those meters. That's been going on for quite a while now. My next question is, why is April 25th, it's supposed to be a council meeting and it's changed because of election day? You're talking about two different entities, two different governments. So why would it be a council's issue? These are my questions I have.
Okay, good deal. Thank you, sir. Let me try to get these as we can. Your first question, I believe, was more of a statement, and that is that Green Acres funds are indeed represent tax dollars, and certainly we would all agree with you on that level, at least. In terms of the zoning meetings, you asked when will they become live? They are accessible, I believe, according to the law currently, and they have been since COVID. That would really be up to the board to make its own determination unless our attorney feels that some action should be taken otherwise. But it certainly is legal and allowed by the state. You questioned about why the statue of Robert Strum has been put outside the playground versus inside the playground. Mary, you and I had discussed this and I forgot the answer.
Blue Parks, just to clarify to the community, is not the name of the park. We do not change the names of the park to Blue Parks. It's designated as Blue Parks have become more conducive for children with special needs with inclusive equipment, equipment that deals with sensory concerns. Games were put around so they can be closed off because children sometimes on the spectrum become what we refer to as a movement risk or run out. And because they're nonverbal, parents have a challenge if they don't see them, getting them to respond. So these gates closed off. The reason why the stone was moved is because we didn't want it blocked because of the gate, and we want everyone to see that part was dedicated to the process. So it's on the property, it's just not within the gate.
Good, thank you, Mayor. The gentleman asked about the body shop across from Armory, the fact that the meters are not being activated or not being used. Chief is here. We can ask him to look into the matter, certainly, and we will. Your last question was why is the April 25th meeting being changed when it's not a council election? Because we felt that it was appropriate to change the date to facilitate people's schedules.
It's two different entities.
That's very well the
Board of
case,
Ed
sir.
and the council.
That's very well the case, but the council has the ability to change those dates with the mayor's backing, and it is exercising that.
And the council chambers is used as a voting station.
That's where people come in
It
to
doesn't
vote.
matter, two different entities.
There are two different entities that will be
Using the
having a
same
meeting
facility.
while people are voting. I don't think it's appropriate. Sorry, Council President.
No, no, please, on the
Council President,
contrary.
just for the public, the clerk is responsible for elections. Her duties would be focused on the election and not running the council meeting. It would not be productive to have the clerk divided, doing the elections, counting, making sure everything's running ethical, be at the call of the county, and have a council meeting. I think it's extremely wise to move the date, whether it's the Board of Ed or a federal election.
The council has, on a number of cases, been very generous in shifting dates around, and I say that as the recipient and the requester in many of those cases. And as long as the meetings are well publicized, people have the opportunity to comment and to learn what is going on in the city and have input to that. I believe the law is being met. We've certainly not been told otherwise, that changing meetings every 3-4 months is so draconian as to in any way question or hurt abilities of people to participate and be educated on items.
And Council President, if I just can add
Please.
something else.
Councilman Love.
Also, this administration and the council has been adamant about promoting voter apathy and having voters understand the process. I think it would actually go against what we stand for, to have a public meeting on a day of a Board of Education election, which I will sit here as an elected official for the city to say, probably the most important election of any election there is, to host a meeting in the chambers where people will be coming in and out, trying to concentrate on voting for candidates that's going to control a $360 million budget and responsible for over 15,000 students. So I commend the administration and the council for changing the meeting and understanding the importance of a Board of Education election. Whether we're two different entities, you're absolutely right. However, we work tangibly. And if we're going to start having meetings with an important election like that, we stand for absolutely nothing.
Thank you, Councilman. Is there anyone else who would like to address the council? Yes, sir.
Marvin Chambers, 294 Garden Street, Inglewood, New Jersey. Having won a tenacity award in media a couple of years ago for advocating
Sir,
for.
sir, excuse me.
Yeah, I understand.
I don't want you to compromise your health, but it's very difficult to understand what you're saying.
I'll speak louder. Having won a tenacity award a few months ago in media for equality and justice as it relates to Black publication, I feel remiss to say the same thing as the city of Passaic. Flag raising, NWC Gala, and pics with Run DMC, it doesn't do anything for our community. A couple of years ago, I spoke to Mayor Hector Law about the quality and diversity as it relates to the hiring practices. Superintendent of Recreation of Cultural Affairs, I applied for in 2019. I was told that there was more accommodating people for the job. Since 2019, it's still unavailable. Director of Human Services, the person resigned, still unfilled. Regarding the Superintendent of Recreation and Cultural Affairs, that position been vacant 4 years. Where's the funds allocated for that position going to? And third, the recreation leader, you had somebody there, but he spent more time in Patterson. Not only it hurts the city of Passaic, it's not advocating for the kids. And as a Black man in this community that was brought up and raised in Passaic, not far from here in the projects, people want to see people that look like us. We aspire more to be custodian and sanitation or custodial in the city of Passaic. In closing, we want the same as everybody on the city council want for their kids. Nothing more, nothing less. We just want the playing field to be level. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else like to address the council? Seeing no hands, is there a motion
Move to
to?
close the public portion.
There's a motion, there's a second to close public portion. Roll call, please.
Councilman Monk,
Yes.
Councilman Love,
Yes.
Councilman Mello,
Yes.
Councilman Schwartz,
Yes.
Councilman Garcia,
Yes.
and Council President Scher.
Yes, thank you. We're up to Roman numeral 9 on our agenda. Ordinances for second and final reading. Hearing is required. Number 1, proposed ordinance 2383-23, an ordinance amending the designation of restricted parking for disabled persons by New Jersey license plate number. Is there a motion, please, to open public hearing?
So move.
Second.
Roll call.
Councilman Monk,
Yes.
Councilman Love,
Yes.
Councilwoman Mello,
Yes.
Councilman Schwartz,
Yes.
Councilman Garcia,
Yes.
and Council President Scher.
Yes, thank you. At this time, ladies and gentlemen, the council is deliberating proposed ordinance 2383-23. If you would like to comment on the proposal, now is a great time. We've disseminated the phone numbers to call if you would like to avail yourself of the phone, or if you are here in City Hall. If you would like to comment on 2383-23. Madam Clerk, do we have anyone who's responded?
No, sir.
Very good. Is there a motion to close public hearing?
Move.
Second.
Roll call, please, to close.
Councilman Monk,
Yes.
Councilman Love,
Yes.
Councilwoman Mello,
Yes.
Councilman Schwartz,
Yes.
Councilman Garcia,
Yes.
and Council President Scher.
Yes, thank you. On the ordinance, please, is there a maker?
Move.
Second.
Councilman Monk,
Yes.
Councilman Love,
Yes.
Councilwoman Mello,
Yes.
Councilman Schwartz,
Yes.
Councilman Garcia,
Yes.
and Council President Scher.
Yes, thank you. We have 3 more ordinances for public hearing, but before we do so, I'd just like to repeat again the number to call if you would like to have comment. 929-436-2866. Meeting ID number 898-9261-2341, *9. That's 929-436-2866. ID 898-9261-2341, *9. We're up to number 2, please, on our agenda. Proposed ordinance 2384-23. An ordinance amending Chapter 295 of the Code of the City of Passaic entitled Vehicles and Traffic, Article 12, Schedules, Section 20, Schedule 1, Parking Prohibited at all times to include a portion of 3rd Street. Is there a motion, please, to open public hearing?
Move.
Second.
Councilman Monk,
Yes.
Councilman Love,
Yes.
Councilman Mello,
Yes.
Councilman Schwartz,
Yes.
Councilman Garcia,
Yes.
and Council President Scher.
Yes, thank you. We invite comment on 2384-23. If there's anyone who would like to speak to that ordinance, please call us at the number given just a moment ago. Madam Clerk, do we have anyone on the phone?
No, sir.
Very good. Is there a motion to close public hearing?
Move.
Second.
Councilman Monk,
Yes.
Councilman Love,
Yes.
Councilwoman Mello,
Yes.
Councilman Schwartz,
Yes.
Councilman Garcia,
Yes.
and Council President Scher.
Yes, thank you. On the ordinance, please.
So move.
Second.
Councilman Monk,
Yes.
Councilman Love,
Yes.
Councilwoman Mello,
Yes.
Councilman Schwartz,
Yes.
Councilman Garcia,
Yes.
and Council President Scher.
Yes, thank you. Number 3, please. Proposed ordinance 2385-23. An ordinance amending Chapter 295 of the Code of the City of Passaic entitled Vehicles and Traffic, Article 12, Schedules, Section 20, Schedule 1, Parking Prohibited at all times to include a portion of Dwaz Line Road. Is there a motion, please, to open public hearing?
Move.
Motion
Second.
and second. Roll call, please.
Councilman Monk,
Yes.
Councilman Love,
Yes.
Councilwoman Mello,
Yes.
Councilman Schwartz,
Yes.
Councilman Garcia,
Yes.
and Council President Scher.
Yes, thank you. At this time, ladies and gentlemen, the council is contemplating proposed ordinance 2385-23, which would parking prohibited at all times to include a portion of Dwaz Line Road. If you would like to comment, please call us. Do we have anyone on the line, ma'am?
No, sir.
Very good. There being no one at this time, is there a motion, please, to close?
Seeing no
public
hands, I
hearing?
move to close
Second.
the public.
Motion and second. Roll call. Thank you.
Councilman Monk,
Yes.
Councilman Love,
Yes.
Councilwoman Mello,
Yes.
Councilman Schwartz,
Yes.
Councilman Garcia,
Yes.
and Council President Scher.
Yes, thank you. On the ordinance, please, is there a maker?
So move.
Second.
Motion and second. Thank you.
Councilman Monk,
Yes.
Councilman Love,
Yes.
Councilwoman Mello,
Yes.
Councilman Schwartz,
Yes.
Councilman Garcia,
Yes.
and Council President Scher.
Yes, thank you. We're under communications, please, items 4 through 13. Are there any questions, please, on 4 to 13? Seeing no lights at this time, is there a motion, please, to accept 4 through 13?
Move.
Motion,
Second.
motion and second. Thank you. Roll call, please.
Councilman Monk,
Yes.
Councilman Love,
Yes.
Councilwoman Mello,
Yes.
Councilman Short,
Yes.
Councilman Garcia,
Yes.
and Council President Chair.
Yes, thank you. Items 14 through 21. Are there any questions, please, on 14 through 21? Seeing no lights, is there a motion, please, to accept 14 through 21?
So move, Council.
Motion
Second.
and second. Roll call, please, on 14 through 21.
Councilman Monk,
Yes.
Councilman Love,
Yes.
Councilwoman Mello,
Yes.
Councilman Short,
Yes.
Councilman Garcia,
Yes.
and Council President Chair.
Yes, thank you. We're up to resolutions. Roman numeral 11, resolutions authorizing closed executive session. Susie, do we have anything that requires?
No, we do not, Council President.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Mr. Fernandez, can you hear us?
Yes, no, Council President. I don't have any.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
No, Council President.
Thank you, sir. Members of the council. Very good. If we can table 22 at this time. Also, we have already, on 25, we've been asked by the administration to take the item off the agenda. Are there any questions on 23 going through 43, accepting 25?
Light, Council President.
Yes,
You have a light.
Councilman.
Thank you, Council President. So question on 28, resolution awarding contracts for design and construction management for 2022 local freight impact fund. Is that just to redo the roadway? I'm just wondering what these fancy terminology of the local freight impact fund is. Or is that just special funding available for roads?
Right, so it's, I'm sorry, Councilman. Yeah, so that's the name they gave the grant. So there has to be a certain number of truck traffic for us to qualify for the grant. That's why it's called local freight. And it is basically to improve and upgrade Lodi Street to improve 8th Street from Lodi all the way to the 8th Street Bridge. And this firm was hired to design and do the construction management. So then you'll see one for the actual construction later on once they give us the bid specs.
Thank you, Councilman. Any other questions on 23 through 43? Seeing no lights at this time, is there a motion, please, to accept items 23 through 43? May we have a motion,
Oh,
please?
second.
Motion and second. Roll call.
Councilman Monk,
Yes.
Councilman Love,
Yes.
Councilwoman Mello,
Yes.
Councilman Short,
Yes.
Councilman Garcia,
Yes.
and Council President Chair.
Yes, thank you very much. I'm terribly sorry, excuse me. Number 44, please, under ordinances for introduction and first reading. Number 44 is an ordinance amending Chapter 189 of the City of Passaic Code to require the inspection of rental dwellings for lead-based paint hazards. Is there a motion, please, to accept for set down for second and final reading at our meeting of March 31st?
21st.
21st. Is there a motion,
So
please?
moved.
Motion, second, please.
Second.
I have a light, please, Councilman Monk.
Yeah, thank you, Council President. The way I understand this ordinance is required by state law, that every city must create this, this ordinance, and that the state requires the inspections as stated in this ordinance. Is that true? That's over, everything in here is required by the state?
That is correct. It was actually, we are not really allowed to deviate from it. We were allowed to do visual inspections because of our demographic. Not every town's allowed to just do visual inspections. So that's why it was, if you see a difference like in a neighboring town, that would be the only difference. But all towns like of similar size to us have the exact same ordinance. Obviously, the fees are a little different because everybody has a different salary guide. but for the actual substance of the ordinance mimics the requirements from the state.
So can I just maybe make a recommendation? Won't impact the ordinance at all, but the ordinance should start off whereas specifically saying that this ordinance is required by the state. This way, anyone that sees it will understand immediately that is not something that local government is trying to impose on people. This is it's a big task.
Councilman, my only question would be what happens if the state of New Jersey were in fact to change its law on the subject?
Well, would we be required to do the same?
Not necessarily. Depending on whether the proposal was stronger or weaker, would make that determination, of course, with all the appropriate attorneys present.
I mean, currently, right now, if you dig deeper into the ordinance does reference throughout the ordinance that it references the New Jersey state law on many various areas. So you're doing that already. So why can't we just write in the front of the ordinance on top, say it's based on the New Jersey statute, whatever.
Council President?
Mr. Mayor.
Councilman, if I may ask, would the language need to say based on, because I believe that to the point of the council president is, if we're only acknowledging that the state has this law and the city is doing this and it lines up with the state as opposed to we're doing it because the state says so. Because I think that's the nuance that becomes problem. If the state becomes looser, do we then become looser unless they require us to? If the ordinance is contingent on the state requiring it, and then they stop requiring it, does that mean we automatically don't require it? So I think it begs the question, do we want to do this or not? Because if we did, then regardless if the state requires it or not, but we are doing it because it's a state law, I think that goes to whether it's good or not. It won't be thinking out. Councilman, just to be clear, are you proposing that we say we're doing this because the state is asking, or we're acknowledging that the state has a law and our law is consistent with the state?
Yeah, I don't know. Again, it's not something we debated or we discussed, right? If the city council would take upon something which is where it's a big ask.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of rental properties in this city, and a lot. Obviously, we're doing it for safety reasons, so on and so forth. But it's something which is it's a hassle. It's costly. It's costs you a lot of problems. Just to get through this.
Councilman,
Yes.
you'll forgive me if I interrupt you if you wouldn't mind. I'm somewhat familiar with the current status and the current bill that exists as part of state regulations. I'm also familiar with another piece of legislation which will be adopted by the state senate in the next 2 weeks, and I'm told will be signed by the governor. I'm intimate with that piece of legislation, having had the pleasure to author it. I will tell you that this particular subject is a vital one. What the city is doing is obviously showing its absolute commitment to ensuring that all the precepts be fulfilled. The state would take precedence. And I must tell you, if it's any consolation, the New Jersey Apartment Association worked on the bill.
If I just think that just to make it very clear to anyone that's pulling out this ordinance is that something was initiated by the state. Now, I'm not looking to throw our assemblyman under the bus here at all.
No, with pleasure. Councilman, I will do anything to get lead out of everyone's vocabulary.
Councilman, I think, if I may, from the administration, I think the councilman's point is well taken. My only concern is precedent, and if there is no precedent. So there are other laws where the state is looser and where more restrictive.
Right.
As a city, we choose to take this approach depending on the impact of our city. Does that create an argument? Well, why is this ordinance as a result of the stricter law? If they change, why don't you just align all of your ordinance? So that's the only concern I have in the wording, that I think it could create, it could result in the same purpose, just one minor word, and I leave it to the attorney to not create a situation where people now claim, why are you so restrictive in Passaic when the state allows for this for every other city? We go, well, Passaic is different. And that's the point of this. Even though it lines up, if the state went a different direction, we would argue we still want to be at the forefront of lead abatement.
Right, it's, the third paragraph makes it sound as this is something which was initiated by the city. Whereas the city code of the city of Passaic, chapter 189, the city of Passaic establishes a lead-based paint hazard program requiring that every single family, two-family, multiple rental dwellings located within the city shall be inspected at tenant turnover, so on and so forth. I think I think it's important, just the educational part of it,
I see.
that people realize that this is something which was initiated on the state level. Again, I'm not holding on, I don't hold off this ordinance, just a suggestion.
Why don't you just give him my home number and we'll work on it.
I do that already anyways.
Council President, I was just wondering, is there a way to word that without making it a significant change? I would imagine that's for the attorney to simply say, whereas the state has a position on it, they would imagine the wording.
Or the city is adopting the state
Susie,
statute.
could I ask for your input, ma'am?
Sure. I think we could, without it being a significant change, insert some language just reflecting that whereas the state has imposed certain requirements, and then just continue on, as long as that the wording is simple and there's nothing to suggest that if state law changes automatically, this is going to change. This is separate and independent, although it happens to mirror what the state law currently requires.
So it would be independent, but consistent with what the state law is.
That's correct. But the wording, any additional language should just simply be, whereas the state of New Jersey has imposed certain requirements, and then go right into the body of the ordinance, not.
And because that would be a de minimis change, we could accept the resolution, the proposal for tonight.
That'd be good.
Yeah, sure.
Is it, Mayor, is that
Yes.
Councilman Monk?
Yeah, sure. And if I may make one other point, if I may, Council President, something of this magnitude that affects so many people, I think it's crucial that the communication and how this is communicated out as clearly as possible to homeowners. Case in point, I know, Mayor, we spoke about this, the ordinance that was passed regarding boilers, inspecting boilers, where there's a lot of confusion of who needs to do it, how it needs to be done. It needs to be done, written up professionally to get the message out and very clear what the requirements are, because there will be a lot of confusion, a lot of questions about this.
We're going to make sure to get the language to the council before that goes out, as well as to the council president's point and to some of the work that's being done by Passaic Valley Water Commission, as well as this legislation that may potentially be signed in the next few weeks. I think we want to capitalize on the opportunity that's at the forefront of everyone's mind right now, that this is the opportune time to discuss it, to send out communication. So we'll make sure that any language that we're going to send, we can send out to the council. Mr. Administrator, if I can, through the council president, just impose that we get the language to the council president and the council before we send anything out to the community on this.
Thank you, Mayor.
Take your silence as
Yes, Mayor.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Council.
Weatherly, forgive me, where are we?
Closing.
We're closing. We need the roll call.
And this is on item number?
44.
On 44, we're on roll call?
Yes.
Very good.
Councilman Monk?
Yes.
Councilman Love?
Yes.
Councilman Mello?
Yes.
Councilman Schwartz?
Yes.
Councilman Garcia?
Yes.
And Council President Shear.
Yes, thank you. We're up to 45, please. An ordinance amending the designation of restricted parking for disabled persons by New Jersey license plate number. Is there a motion to set down for our next meeting for second and final reading on March 21?
Move.
Motion
Second.
and second. Thank you. Roll call, please.
Councilman Monk?
Yes.
Councilman Love?
Yes.
Councilwoman Mello?
Yes.
Councilman Schwartz,
Yes.
Councilman Garcia,
Yes.
and Council President Shear.
Yes, thank you. We're up to 46, please, with the council's permission. An ordinance amending Chapter 75 alcoholic beverages, Article 1, sale and distribution, Section 21, nude or nearly nude activity of the City of Passaic Code. Is there a motion, please, for a second reading and final set down at our meeting of March 21?
You have a light on.
Yes, I have a light on.
Yes.
Councilwoman.
Just need more understanding on what is this.
Sure.
Yes.
I was prepared for the next three, 46 and 47, and 48. So some of the discussions that we've had at this council for quite some time, and the mayor's been adamant about the difficulty in enforcement of, let's say specifically massage parlors, and this nude and nearly nude, it's more towards go-go bars, but all these businesses that have underlying illicit activities that, you know, especially with the massage parlors change their corporate name and then we struggle to enforce it. I'd like to report that these three ordinances that we're proposing would be the severest penalties in our surrounding area for any establishment, not one that is functioning legally, but for those establishments that are doing illegal activity and they are caught, they're going to have severe penalties than we've ever had before, and in the surrounding areas, to send the message that you know, if you want to conduct a proper business here and according to the law, you are fine. And one added note to the nude and nearly nude. What was done here is it mimics now the definition of lewd and immoral activity based on the state of New Jersey and their liquor license laws. So now we will be consistent with that definition. As the council may know, this definition is several decades old. This ordinance, I mean, was several decades old, and we were kind of behind the eight ball. And looking at this, we now amended it to be consistent with the state code as well as the state definition. And item 46, 47, 48 is to add harsher penalties for these establishments that are known to conduct illegal activity. Mayor, you walked in at the perfect moment. We're just talking about your direction and really the frustration between the police department and the administration trying to enforce these establishments running illegal activity. I know as late as the last council meeting, you brought it up and we were having that conversation. And this is a way to try to address that. We sat down with our attorneys, the police department, and the state code to come up with the three ordinances that you see before you.
Any questions, please?
I'm glad you cleared that up because I thought that what I read was different. That's why I was a little concerned. But okay. Also, I mean, I don't know if it's possible you can say that if by any chance, I mean, and I'm sure it's probably part of it, if any minor is called within these facilities, especially in these parlors, that it could be heavily weighed on them as well.
Councilwoman, this addresses a number of issues. One, this approach of my administration along with the council to address criminality, any activity that goes against the law, whether it's dealing with children, especially children and minors, or in general, the penalties will be harsher. There will be greater police enforcement, but at the same time, our city has a responsibility to ensure that our laws are consistent with the times and consistent with interpretation of some of the definitions that were around decades ago don't apply anymore. I believe it's important for us to be fair to establishments throughout the city and to let them know we will hold you accountable. We will hold you accountable if you are not operating in a way that is legal, ethical, but at the same time, this governing body, I am confident saying, will be your greatest advocate when it comes to ensuring the success of your appropriately operated business in line with the same approach that's taken consistently throughout the state of New Jersey. So yes, that will be addressed at the same time, explaining to businesses around our city that we are fair in our approach and understand that there are changes that occur and definitions don't always catch up at the same time as the times. You should. I don't know if that was clear, but if there are any questions, we can clarify. I try to bear it all. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
We're on 46, please, Councilman Garcia.
Yeah, what do we call here nearly nude?
So that is a great question. Allow me, without getting into all the details, because that's a legal question and sometimes even subjective. If I may, Councilman, I would say 60 years ago, if you showed your ankles, it was an issue in public, right? Nowadays, you may walk through a mall or you'll go through, you know what? I don't even want to get into that. People wear what they want to wear. The same right that allows you to cover is the same right that allows you to dress freely in terms of your expression within certain guidelines. The question becomes when all businesses are being lumped into the same category when they don't fit. So if we were to use a term that's often referred to as a strip club, which implies that clothing is taken off, and there is an establishment where there is no clothing taken off, is it a strip club? There are laws that dictate whether someone is allowed to dance completely without clothes or nude. You cannot serve alcohol in these establishments at all. That's New Jersey state law. If someone is dancing without any clothes, we do not have such establishments in the city. There was a time, because they weren't updated, everything was lumped in together. These businesses do not operate the same. If there is an act that is lewd, and lewd, unfortunately, by state law, sometimes is defined as any act that is lewd. It's a lewd act. You can literally read that. It's a little bit comical. But in reality, the way that it's applied through precedent, case law, and laws that have occurred is if there's any touching, there's interaction of any nature, especially that of an intimate nature between the patron and the individuals that are performing, then that can be perceived as lewd. When there is a performance and there is a distance between customers, that may fall into a different category. These things become very nuanced, but that's why we leave it to attorneys, because if we try to explain it, then we might be left out in the cold naked. I'm sorry. I don't want to. I'm sorry, Council President. I tried to avoid it. I want to get to the what's that called of the issue? What's it called of the issue of the issue? Something. But anyway, I'm trying to state that what we're trying to do is update our ordinance to be fair, as well as present more restrictive enforcement for those who are not operating consistent with the law or in any way in an unethical manner. But I hope that example, that is not the exact situation. Those are the examples that we ask the attorneys to address in terms of everything falling into the same category. They don't.
Thank you, Mayor.
Any other concerns on 46? Is there a motion, please, to accept for set down for second and final reading at our meeting of March 21?
So
This is
moved.
on 46. Motion. Second, please.
Second.
Motion and second. Roll call, please, on 46.
Councilman Monk?
Yes.
Councilman Love?
Yes.
Councilwoman Mello?
Yes.
Councilman Schwartz?
Yes.
Councilman Garcia?
Yes.
And Council President Shear.
Yes, thank you. Number 47, please. Proposed ordinance amending Chapter 129, Entertainment, to add Section 15, lewd or immoral activity. Is there a motion, please, to set down for second and final reading at our meeting of March 21?
No.
Second.
Motion and second.
Councilman Monk?
Yes.
Councilman Love?
Yes.
Councilwoman Mello?
Yes.
Councilman Schwartz?
Yes.
Councilman Garcia?
Yes.
And Council President Shear.
Yeah. Susie, we're on terra firma on these?
Yes.
On 48, please, proposed ordinance amending Chapter 90A barbershops, cosmetology and hairstyling, Article 3, massage, body works, and somatic therapy establishments, Section 21, violations and penalties of the City of Passaic Code, Is there a motion, please, to set down for second and final reading at our meeting of March 21? Motion, please.
Second.
Motion and second. Roll call, please, on 48.
Councilman Monk,
Yes.
Councilman Love,
Yes.
Councilman Mello,
Yes.
Councilman Schwartz,
Yes.
Councilman Garcia,
Yes.
and Council President Scher.
Yes, thank you. What does somatic mean anyway? Sorry. Roman numeral 13, payment of bills. Are there any questions on the bills, please, as presented? Hearing none at this time, is there a motion, please, to accept the bills?
Move it.
Motion
Second.
and second. Thank you. Roll call.
Councilman Monk,
Yes.
Councilman Love,
Yes.
Councilman Mello,
Yes.
Councilman Schwartz,
Yes.
Councilman Garcia,
Yes.
and Council President Scher.
Yes, thank you. Administrators report, Mr. Fernandez. On behalf of my colleagues on the council, we'd like to thank you for your patience and sticking with us so far away.
Thank you so much, Council President, and nothing to report at this time.
Very good, sir. Thank you so very much. Mr. Mayor?
I would like to echo those sentiments and wish your daughter a speedy recovery. We know you're with your family and you took the time to be at this entire meeting. Thank you, Mr. Business Administrator. Council President, I just want to inform the council that the work on the Benson, Main Avenue and Brook Ave parking lot will begin in the next week to create additional parking spaces for the public. I think that is exciting news, especially based on some of the conversations that we have had in the past. We continue with our initiatives to increase and expand parking opportunities for our residents. Not always easy, but I commend this council and all those that work in my administration as we continue to identify these opportunities. And then I'll conclude with, I know we're making light and I look forward to the opportunity to discuss further. You know, I want to conclude by telling people that may be watching two things, and I won't go long, but something struck me earlier and I didn't want to address. We were blessed to have a figure that is known worldwide to speak to our children. He's an author of a book, Overcame Depression, discussed his history, stayed in the school for 3 hours. Pictures were a very small part of those that were so excited to see a celebrity. Donated books to the children. These books are just remarkably illustrated, and we're so very excited. The flag raisings in our city, I would propose, mean so very much to the communities that attend. We have consistently recognized geographical locations of those who live in our city, and I am so very proud of the leadership of those who continue to push these efforts forward throughout the year, because they do mean something. In these events that raise needed funds for scholarships, assisting families, and making sure that we honor our history and where our city is, especially this year where we celebrate 150th anniversary. And then I would like to go on the record. I would have stated it earlier, but I am cognizant of the rules of a council meeting. It's a council meeting. It's not a mayor's meeting, and you indulge me so much. So thank you. But I do want to say this. When dealing with our children or services that will be provided to the community, when there are applicants or candidates before me or anyone who is going to work in my administration, I will go on the record and say I don't care about the color of their skin, the faith they choose to practice, whatever distinction used to identify them, whatever goes after those hyphenated terms that we use. I care about the quality of service and the qualifications. Whether that is an individual that's going to deal with our children, if you are white, black, brown, or whatever, and that is in no way to say I don't see color, I see color. It's important to celebrate color and to acknowledge differences and to know that we celebrate our diversity. But when it comes to serving the city of Passaic, if I have two candidates, council president and members of the city council, and one doesn't look anything like me, whether white or any other Asian, or you get the point, or and the other candidate looks exactly like me or is a clone of me or is me, I am not qualified or that individual is not qualified, they should not get the job. Our city boasts of our diversity. We have a very diverse staff of individuals and directors, but we focus and we don't hire individuals because of race or color. We hire them because they are qualified. Oftentimes, those individuals have had to stand before this council, read their resumes, and explain their years of experience and what they intend to provide in the services. I put that on the record because someone may look at the meeting and wonder why statements aren't addressed, because they weren't questions. They're statements and everyone's allowed to make a statement, but I often find myself in the position of wanting to defend the approach of this governing body, the council, and all the directors, because we have remarkable individuals, talented, compassionate, and caring. And sometimes you'll see ordinances and wonder, why do you guys support this? And I'll conclude with this statement. I don't have to frequent your business or even agree with the kind of business you want to have, but I will defend with every bit of every energy that I have your right to the law and due process and justice and what is appropriate throughout the state and our nation. Because that's the very best of what government is intended to be: objective and open, not subjective and unfair. I wanted to share those things, Council President. I thank you for indulging me.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There being no other business publicly advertised as required by law, is there a motion to adjourn, please?
Second.
Motion and second to adjourn. Roll call, please.
Councilman Monk?
Yes.
Councilman Love?
Yes.
Councilman Mello?
Yes.
Councilman Schwartz?
Yes.
Councilman Garcia? And Council President Sher.
Yes, thank you. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.